Today we are sharing 5 things that you should never do with your money. Hi, I'm Joseph.
And I'm Tasha with One Big Happy Life, and we make videos about how to find balance, build wealth, and live happy. So if you are all about living the life that you want on your own terms, then we make videos just for you. So be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single thing.
We talk a lot on the channel about different things that you should be doing with your money. Well, today we are going to flip that around and talk about things that you should never do with your money.
And this was a bit of a challenge for us because we are all about finding balance, right? And helping you create financial plans that allow you to fit in all the things that you want to do with your money. But we're feeling pretty good about these 5 things that you really should never do these things with your money.
First of all, you should never lose track of your money. So you should always have an idea of what in the world you're spending your money on, how much money you're making. And the perfect way to do that, of course, is to have a budget that includes all of your income, all of your expenses, and then you have at least the outline of what's happening with your money.
And we also say beyond basic budgeting that you should be tracking your net worth at least quarterly, if not month to month. And to make that as easy as possible on both fronts, we have free templates for you to download. So if you need a free budget, you can go to onebighappylife.com/budget. And if you need a free net worth tracker, go to onebighappylife.com/net worth. And so that way you never have to worry about losing track of where your money is, what it's doing, and the kind of progress that you're making towards your financial goals.
And of course, the budget by itself or tracking your net worth isn't the end-all be-all. You still have to do things like actually stick to the budget. Well, how do you know if you're sticking to your budget? That means things like checking your bank statements, checking your credit card statements if you're using credit cards to make sure that you're actually sticking to those categories that you were originally intended to.
Now, when I used to make a lot less money, like back when I was making $20-something thousand a year, back when I was making $14,000 a year and pregnant with Alexis, I was budgeting down to the absolute penny, as in I knew my budget categories. I used the same basic budget template that we still use today, but I would actually track my day-to-day spending in a notebook. Anytime I spent anything, I subtracted it from the balance in my checking account so I knew how much money I had, because money was just so tight. And especially back then, it was so easy to overspend and then end up busting my budget on fees and or whether it's bank fees or fees of having to turn electricity back on or something like that because I forgot to pay the bill or didn't have enough money to pay the bill. So keeping track of your money helps you control your money and make sure that it goes only where you want it to go.
Another thing that you never want to do with your money is be too risky with it. Now, we mean risk in a number of different ways. So let's start. First off, spending too much of it. So spending more money than you have, putting yourself into a precarious financial situation where you've got bills that you just can't handle. That kind of thing you absolutely must avoid.
Now, we are not opposed to debt at all. We think that debt, when used responsibly, can be a great wealth building tool and also help you smooth your consumption over the course of your lifetime. But like Joseph said, you have to use that debt responsibly. So when debt becomes a negative is when you're overusing debt and you're overextending yourself. So you can't meet all of your financial responsibilities, and then you end up defaulting and your credit gets worse, and then the cost of debt goes up. So you end up putting way more money towards debt than you intended to. So you don't want to overuse debt. That is risky.
Now, a great way to avoid that is whenever you're considering using debt is to plan out exactly how you're going to pay it back, and including that in your budget, a long-term, like a 5-year budget like we use, to really see, well, can you actually afford that in the long run? Do you have enough cushion? Do you have that emergency fund set away? And you can really tell. Now, on the investment side of things, you do not want to be making risky investments with money that you need to cover your basic expenses. So if you've got your retirement money, you don't want to be putting that in super risky things. Like if you have, something come along like Bitcoin, that's not for your retirement money. That's for money that you don't need, that you're like, oh, well, I'll give it a shot with $1,000. Maybe.
Yeah, stock picking and trying to time the market is an extremely risky investment strategy. And so you only want to do that with money that you don't mind losing. The third thing that you should never do with your money is let someone else manage it because you don't know how. And that someone else could be your partner, it could be your child or your parent or a paid financial advisor. Here's the thing, you need to know how to manage your own money, and you need to understand what is going on with your own money. It's okay for you to outsource it, but you always need to be on top of it and in control of it. And a recent studies have shown that when one partner delegates all of the financial responsibilities to the other partner, that it actually decreases their ability to understand finances over the course of their lifetime. So they make financial decisions that aren't as good, even when the researchers give them all the information that they need to make a good financial decision. So you always want both partners involved when you're dealing with your money.
So that really sounds like practice makes perfect. And so if you're not practicing it in your day-to-day life, then it sounds like you're losing it. So, or I guess that's use it or lose it. So kind of both. But another thing is, if you're paying your professionals and putting all of your trust in them, well, you might not be able to see when they're doing something that you either don't agree with or they're actually not supposed to be doing. That's how you hear about rich people getting swindled by their accountants or their professional management staff, because they themselves do not understand what in the world is happening with their money. And so it's important that you have at least the basics. And if something doesn't make sense to you, keep asking questions. And if they can't explain it, you need to go with somebody else.
So in other words, always know what's going on with your money.
The fourth thing to never do with your money is let other people's opinions control what you do with it. Everybody has their personal tastes and preferences with how they would be living their lives without, with blinders on. But we are constantly bombarded with advertisements and honestly, professional advice on you should be doing this or that. And that's not the thing that we actually want to be doing. So you need to be really cautious about what advice and what advertisements you're listening to and how that's, controlling what you really want to be doing with your money.
Now, understand that the advertisements that Joseph's talking about and the advice, they come on both ends of the spectrum. So what you'll see on TV is a lot of, well, oh, buy this, or don't you want to have this thing in order to be happy? But then you'll hear on the personal finance side, it's swinging all the way to the opposite, that you should be minimalist, that you should be uber frugal. And it's like, well, maybe for you, somewhere in the middle is actually the right thing, where you care, the things that you care less about, well, you're not going to spend on those things. But the things that matter more to you, you are willing to pay more for them. And, this is how we live our lives. So when you look at our videos, you'll see that we do things like go on family vacations. We make repairs to our home. What other things do we just bought Alexis a car. There will be more about that coming soon. And a lot of people have opinions, about the size of our house, about what we should and shouldn't be doing with our money. But at the end of the day, you only get one life. And the only person that has to live that life is you. So when it comes to other people's opinions, they really should not come into play in you deciding what your financial priorities are and how you want to structure those priorities to ensure that you live a full and happy life.
Now, having said that, you definitely want to be taking good information that helps you accomplish those goals. So if those professionals or whoever are giving advice, you're like, yeah, that's going to help me reach that goal that I already have. That is exactly how you want to be using that advice. And then you can just let whatever else they're saying about that you don't really agree with, you can just let that go and be much happier that way.
And this is particularly true if when they're saying something to you and you're feeling scolded or ashamed, that should raise red flags to you and question mark. Or if you're feeling insecure and inadequate, really, question what you're being told if that's the way the message is making you feel.
The fifth and final thing that you should never do with your money is to hoard it. And so I'm talking about just getting a gigantic pile of cash just for the sake of having a gigantic pile of cash, or investments in the bank. And it's doing this at the cost of other things, like, a lifestyle that you would actually be happy with, which you will be living for a long time. Because you don't end up with a pile of cash instantly and then live with it for a long time. You work up to it over time. Well, then what about all that living in between? Mm-hmm. If you're all focused on the cash too much, then you miss out on that life.
Yeah, so the way that you avoid this is that you actually take some time to think about how much wealth you want to amass in your lifetime and what you want to do with that wealth and what kind of legacy you want to leave. That way you have a target that you want to hit, and of course when you want to have it. So you know exactly how much you need to save, and you don't feel like you need to save every penny and you can't give yourself permission to spend on the things that actually matter to you. You've got to find that balance between saving for those identified goals and also enjoying your life.
And it is lots of fun to be able to spend some money on some activities that you really enjoy, making lots of memories with your family, and also donating to causes that you really care about. And so instead of just amassing the money, letting some of that free to make a real impact in, say, the less fortunate or some other other countries, whatever kind of interests you're into and causes you care about, you can make big impacts while you're still alive if you're releasing some of that money that you've gotten saved up. So it's really important to think about those things and make sure that you've got that balance, so you're not saving more than you really want or need.
Mm-hmm. So let us know what you guys think of these 5 things that you should never do with your money down in the comments, and we'll see you in the next video.
Bye.
Bye.